Am I the idiot for telling my son I'd rather have his ex-wife as a daughter than him as my son? 16 years ago my son Matthew had a daughter with his now ex-wife Josie. I have always thought of Josie as my own daughter, so when they divorced 7 years ago due to my son cheating, I was conflicted and disappointed. Josie wasn't particularly close with any of her family, so my husband and I naturally took them in. Josie was an angel. She had insisted that we didn't have to lift a finger more than before we had taken them in, and though she was hurt, she kept civil around Matthew. My husband and I held a huge hand in raising their daughter Ruth, because Matthew remarried less than a year later and now has a 4-year-old son after disowning Ruth. 2 years ago my husband was diagnosed with lung cancer. It was hard on everyone, especially Ruth. They were extremely close. She told him about her girlfriends and boyfriends before anyone else and has always wanted him to be the one to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. Matt rarely ever visited and didn't answer our calls, often saying that we had other kids, so it wasn't like my husband was dying lonely. Last night Matt stopped by to talk about inheritance. He never mentioned Josie nor Ruth and hinted that he thought he should get more inheritance than his siblings the entire time. My husband and I shared awkward looks until he decided to cut in. He explained that everyone would get a piece, but he'd focus more on Ruth and Bonnie, one of our other grandkids. Matt got angry and said that Ruth was just a bastard and that his son deserved more than her. My husband got furious after that and left the room saying that he wouldn't include Matthew at all. Matt yelled back and turned to me saying that Ruth wasn't worth it because she'd just grown up to be a whore like her mother. I told him that I'd rather have her mother as my daughter than him as my son and insisted that he leave. I'm getting phone calls from Matt's wife and family friends saying that my husband and I overreacted and he was just angry that we were playing favorites. Am I the idiot? Edit. To clear some things up, Josie did not cheat on Matthew. Josie and Matthew met later in college and Josie was known as a party girl before that. Ruth isn't the product of an affair, but we are planning on getting a DNA test because what Matthew said has gotten under Ruth's skin. She was at the house when this occurred and overheard it. When it came to taking in Josie and Ruth, we didn't hesitate because Josie is not from here. She and Matt lived in another country until he moved them here a few months before he got caught cheating, and they had nowhere else to go as Josie was a stay-at-home mom. I had no intention of choosing Josie over Matt, then and now, and I never discouraged Matt from visiting. I tried to make it very clear that we weren't picking and choosing when we took Josie in. We just wanted her and our granddaughter to be safe and have a good home. Update. This situation is what my grandchildren have described as messy. There is a lot that happened, so I'll try to sum it up in one explanation. We had been trying to talk with Matthew for several weeks after what happened and we were only met with silence. He and his wife would refuse us at the door and he never answered his phone. There was obviously something we didn't know from his side of the story, but we can't make a judgment based on what we could possibly not know. I sat Josie down and asked her if she knew what could possibly be happening. She never talked much about her and Matt's marriage and we never pried. Josie broke down and told us that their marriage wasn't great from the beginning and that Matt cheating wasn't something new and that moving here was because he told her he would stop once he was closer to his family. She says she never told us because she was embarrassed and she didn't want to turn us against our son. A few days ago, Matthew came by our house well after midnight while drunk. He insisted on talking, so I brought him to the basement patio. He told me that he thought Josie was cheating on him from the beginning but had no proof nor any reason to think it. He just couldn't think that such a pretty ex-party girl would stay faithful. Josie getting pregnant wasn't off track for their bedroom life, but he just couldn't believe it. There wasn't much sense to his words, but he did say she's so pretty and I love her so much. Why would she stay faithful? He started having affairs after Ruth was born and Josie knew she stayed because she didn't want Ruth to have a dysfunctional family. Eventually he started repeating that he effed up and being a crappy father is the only thing he's good at and that he can't disappoint anyone if there's nothing to look forward to with him. He said I'm an idiot and that's it, no changing it. I'm not good at being the villain and called his wife for a ride home. He's gone back to ignoring us and I'm not sure what to do. His wife Ellie has told us that she's tried and it's not a fight we're going to win. In an even longer story short, Ruth is 100% Matt's daughter and it looks like we're going to have to raise our grandson too. I hope everyone has gotten their fill of drama today. Not the idiot. So to his reasoning. He was justified in disowning his daughter because his wife was too pretty and he loved her too much. Just wow. I'm sorry that your son is so warped. This is not your fault. Any person walking away from their responsibilities is doing it for their own reasons, and they are the only ones at fault, not the idiot. So sorry your son plays the victim instead of taking responsibility for his poor choices and bad actions. Sorry he is punishing you for your good decisions. People rarely change, this is who he is. So sorry your son only came around because he was interested in inheritance. Glad Ruth and Josie have you in their lives. Make certain your son cannot touch his children's inheritance. Is the son a piece of garbage? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for calling my daughter a terrible mother because I won't be seeing my grandchildren on Christmas? I need an outsider opinion. I, female 46, have been having problems with my daughter Sarah, 24. It began when she eloped with her husband 3 years ago. Me and my husband were really sad that we couldn't see her get married or even know about it until it was over. We were sad but got over it. It was her day and if she didn't want anyone there then that was that. We talked on the phone or met up at least every week, so it was a huge surprise. Then they moved down 2 states. It would be a trip to visit, so we still talk on the phone more instead of visits. So for holidays we would visit or they would visit. This year at Thanksgiving she brought a surprise, her son Dave, 1 month. I didn't even know she was pregnant. We talked all the time and nothing. Again, it was sad that we missed such a large milestone in her life but didn't say anything. We were happy to meet the grandbaby. I called today to ask about what they wanted me to bring out for the baby for the Christmas visit, the old baby bed and whatnot. Sarah told me that they will not be coming up for Christmas. I asked if we were going down this year. She said no, it was just the nuclear family for Dave's first Christmas. I asked if we could FaceTime Christmas morning or that day to see Dave and their tree, and she said no. After that conversation, I talked to my husband. We are both sad again and tired of missing milestones in Sarah's life. I sent Sarah a text that me and her dad are going to take a step back. Low contact. She called and asked what this was about. I told her and it broke into an argument. That it is her life and she can do what she wants with her kid and so on. I told her she clearly doesn't want us involved in her life and that she was a bad mother. She called me an idiot. So am I the idiot here? I need a second opinion. Update. I took everyone's advice and it has been a long week for the family. I gave her a call after a lot of people asked me to reach out again and asked her straight up what she wanted. Did she want us out of her life? What is going on, and to please be honest. She was quiet for a bit and hung up after saying give her some time. I thought that was the end of it and she would reach out later or never. Well, on Monday she showed up at our house after an 8-hour drive. Sarah sat both of us down and told the full story of what was going on. She was happy with eloping and just didn't want to spend money on a wedding. We knew this one. For the baby, she was never pregnant. Her husband cheated on her and got another woman pregnant. Sarah found out about 2 months before the kid was born. She didn't tell us because Sarah knew we would tell her to leave him. 100% true. She wanted to fix the marriage, and in doing that she kept it a secret so her husband wouldn't get any backlash. She told us the only reason they were able to meet Dave was due to Biomom dropping the kid off so she could visit her family across the country. There is no custody agreement. It's been a huge mess on their end and the marriage is rough at the moment. Sarah was planning to go to Christmas at our place at the beginning and explain the situation, but Dave would be with biological mom and husband didn't want the secret out. So when we called her saying we were going to take a step back, Sarah was very upset. She thought she was losing her family over a secret to protect her husband. Her husband didn't help since he never had a close family, so he didn't understand why she was upset. Sarah and her husband got into a huge argument about the whole ordeal. When I called again, she already made up her mind that she will be telling us and going to Christmas at our house. She took time off and drove down and will stay for Christmas. She doesn't know what she will do with her husband and if she will try to fix it or leave. She did tell us to stay out of it since she wants her decision to be 100% on her. We will respect that even though we are hoping she leaves him for this stunt. Thank you everyone that commented on the last post. You had some great advice and made us really think about what was going on. Not the idiot. I'm glad you at least understand what's going on. I know it's got to be disappointing to find out that Dave isn't your grandson. But your daughter was trying to handle things as best as she possibly could. Be supportive of your daughter while she's in your home. Do not offer advice unless she asks for it. Your daughter already knows your position. Her head knows you're right. Her heart is involved in this process, too, though. She just needs time to process what's happening and accept that she can't stay with her husband and think things are going to get any better with him. Did this grandmother cross a line? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for choosing my stepsister over my real sister? I'm worried I destroyed my relationship with my sister. This past weekend, my female 18, bio sister Dan, female 25, got married. Some backstory is that my mom and dad amicably divorced when I was 8 and Dan was 15. My dad started dating my now stepmom when I was almost 9 and got married by the time I was 12. Stepmom had a daughter who moved in with us. Grace, female 18, is the same age as me. We never got along until around our mid-teen years, and I like to say that I have a bonus sister that I love with all of my heart. Unfortunately, Dan never liked stepmom or Grace. There was a big age gap and she never got over our parents' divorce. She never forgot about me when she went to college and eventually moved out and begun dating her now husband. Anyways, stepmom and Grace were not invited to her wedding over the weekend. Her wedding was about a 3-hour drive away from my dad's house. My dad and I decided to carpool. About halfway through the drive, my dad got a frantic call from my stepmom. Grace had an accident while riding a house at her grandparents' and got taken to the hospital in an ambulance. I can't really describe the desperation coming from stepmom over the phone. Dad told me we had to turn around and tried calling Dan. He couldn't get a hold of her, so he called my mom. He let her know that we had to turn around due to an emergency and he wouldn't be able to walk down the aisle. The wedding started at 1 p.m. and we left at 8:30 a.m., so we turned around at 10 a.m. By the time we got to the hospital, it was 11 a.m. Luckily, Grace only fractured her back and wasn't seriously injured. The doctor said it could have easily been a major or deadly injury. I was so anxious that I was nauseous and I don't feel comfortable driving 3 hours on my own. I texted my mom and Dan letting them know everything that I won't make it. I didn't hear back from Dan until that night saying she was so disappointed in me and devastated that she chose my stepsister over her real sister. It's now Wednesday and she still hasn't answered me. I also think I'm blocked from her FB. Am I the idiot because I missed her wedding? ETA, I'm getting a lot of questions regarding this. My sister did not have a rehearsal dinner or a wedding party. That is why we weren't there the night before. Our plan was to be there at 11:30. Our mom arrived at 10. The original plan was to have a big brunch the following day with all of the family members that had to travel. Also, you were in the part of the state we were going to is almost non-existent, especially for a considerable drive. Edit. 12:26 p.m. and just got off a phone call with Dan. We are having dinner on Saturday in the city she lives in. Dad was not invited to join us. At this time, I am going to keep the details of the call private. I hope to update this Sunday or next. Update. Hey everyone, I'm not sure if this is the right thread to post my update, and I'm unsure how to link my original post, so that's in my profile. Like I said, I was able to speak with Dan and we had lunch last weekend. Some people assumed that she found my post, which she did, but she never commented. I drove up and we met at a nearby park and she brought lunch. It was an awkward silence for a couple minutes because I didn't know how to start. Dan said the first words. She said, "I'm sorry for how I reacted, but I'm not sorry for being mad." It fell into more silence. I started apologizing that I should have been there and I wish I did things differently. To answer some questions, I ended up asking her about the divorce and whether cheating was ever a possibility, and she confirmed what my mom said, which was no. However, she did tell me that it felt like our dad replaced her with Grace and she felt tossed aside, which I never realized. Dan told me that because we never saw each other much after she moved out, she tried to impress me when we did see each other. At this point we were both crying on this park bench and I felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. She let me hug her and I kept telling her how sorry I am. She doesn't blame me for not driving myself up, but she wanted me to still show up at the brunch. At this point in time she doesn't think she will be forgiving our dad soon or at all for that matter. She doesn't blame Grace and wishes her the best. Our relationship is a little awkward right now, but I'm going to be putting in a lot more effort with her. We've been talking on the phone and we are planning a little girls trip in the summer. For anyone wondering, Grace is going to make a full recovery. She is in a back brace for a few odd months, but as of yet she hasn't had any nerve flare-ups. My dad has been hounding me to make Dan call him, so I've been at my mom's still until my dad calms down. Anyways, I'm not sure this was the update a lot of people wanted based on the comments I got on the original post, but thank you everyone nonetheless. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, I don't blame your sister for her feelings about your father's family. It must have been so hard to see her dad and sister become so close with Grace. Your father should be walking her down the aisle, so this is hard to forgive. Tell your dad to respect this and give her space. It sounds like your relationship is not as close as she wanted even with all her effort, and she is grieving that. You're the idiot. You are very lucky to have a sister who is allowing you in her life. I would not be. Take this chance to reflect how you want this relationship with her to be and put in the effort like you said. Clearly you weren't before. In her eyes, you will be doing because second chances don't come this often. Although, I don't know how you'll ever make it up to her. It's a good start you aren't forcing your sister to contact your dad.